I hope it was worth it, Amber, I said, my voice steady but low, as I dropped the USB drive onto her father's desk like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Her family sat there, perfectly still, her father behind the desk, her mother beside him, and her younger brother slouched on the leather couch, nervously scrolling his phone. But Amber? She didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She slowly crossed her legs, adjusted her bracelet, and raised one eyebrow like I had just brought her the wrong drink. Her father looked at the flash drive, then at me. What is this? I didn't answer. I just nodded toward his laptop. See for yourself. He hesitated for a second, then plugged it in. The silence in the room grew thick, like the air itself was holding its breath. The screen lit up. A hotel hallway. Grainy footage. A timestamp. And then, Amber, in that green dress I never liked. And Mason Reddington, my so-called business partner. My old friend. They didn't even wait to get to the room. Right there, in the hallway, she kissed him like no one would ever know. Then she reached for his belt. Turn it off, her mother gasped. But her father didn't. He watched the whole 30-second clip, jaw tight, face pale. When the screen finally went black, the only sound in the room was the soft whir of the laptop fan. Amber broke the silence with a scoff. So dramatic, Noah. You act like you caught me committing a war crime. 3 years, I said. My hands were shaking now, not from fear, from restraint. 3 years of lies. Of pretending. Of letting me sleep beside you while you were sneaking out to be with him. She stood up, smoothing her skirt like this was just some corporate meeting. Grow up. You were boring, Noah. You wanted a family. I wanted a life. You were content selling software to farmers in Ohio. I wanted power. Mason gave me that. Her father's face turned a shade I'd never seen before. Amber. Don't. She snapped, cutting him off. You think I needed your approval? All of you sitting here like I ruined some perfect little love story. Please. I upgraded. I looked at her and realized something. She wasn't even sorry. Not ashamed. She was proud. Proud that she betrayed me. Proud that she played me. You used me to get into Mason's world, I said, stepping closer, just enough to see the slight twitch in her jaw. You used my contacts, my work, my name. And, she said with a smirk, it worked. That was the moment I stopped loving her. Not when I saw the video. Not when I read the messages. Not even when I found out she'd been sleeping in our bed the same day she was in his. It was that moment. The look in her eyes when she realized she'd won. When she thought I'd walk away quietly. That I'd be crushed. That I'd disappear. They all thought I was the weak one. That night, as I walked out of that house for the last time, I didn't say goodbye. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I planned. Because I made a vow. I would destroy them. Not with violence. Not with rage. But by taking everything they loved. Just like she took everything from me. And the first piece of the Reddington empire crumbled that night. Not because of what I showed them. But because none of them realized who I truly was. 2 days later, I was in my storage unit, the one Amber didn't know about. The metal latch creaked open and the fluorescent lights flickered on above boxes labeled with dates, names, and emails. Years of backups. Contracts. Phone recordings. Screenshots. I wasn't paranoid. I was methodical. I never thought I'd need any of it, but I kept everything. Amber always laughed at how I saved receipts, even from gas stations. She didn't know I'd saved hers too. I sat down with a burner laptop and started piecing it all together. Reddington Capital. Amber's sudden promotion. The shell companies Mason used to move investor funds. I already had enough to start unraveling it. But I wanted more. I wanted it to fall in on itself like a rotted house. Not overnight. Publicly. Slowly. I sent the first anonymous tip to the Financial Crimes Bureau. Then I made a call to Jenna Whitley, Mason's ex-fiancée. A woman he left after cheating with Amber. She answered on the second ring. I didn't need to say much. Just my name. There was a pause, then a low laugh. Took you long enough, she said. I wasn't ready before, I replied. Well, she said, I've been ready for 3 years. The next few weeks were silent on the surface. Amber posted fake smiles on Instagram. Mason was pictured at some blockchain summit in LA. And I played the part of the ghost, invisible, forgotten. Just the ex-husband who couldn't handle a strong woman. Behind the scenes, I was feeding data to journalists. Financial trails. Investor complaints. Leaked memos. I even included a few romantic emails Mason wrote to Amber from his company email. Signed, Yours in Chaos. Disgusting. But effective. The first article hit the business pages quietly. Then a blog picked it up. then 2 more. And by the time Forbes wrote about the potentially catastrophic irregularities at Reddington Capital, Mason's PR team was spinning like a washing machine on Max. Amber texted me for the first time since the night I walked out. "Amber, was this you?" I didn't reply. She called. I let it ring. Then she left a voicemail, and her voice was panicked now. She tried to sound calm, but I knew her better than she knew herself. "Noah, I think we need to talk. This is getting serious. Just call me, okay? Please. Please." She never said please before. I played it twice, then deleted it. The funny thing about destroying people like Amber and Mason is they expect fury. They prepare for shouting, violence, vengeance in the raw form. What they never expect is quiet, patient dismantling. When they finally realize it's happening, it's too late. Amber tried damage control. I watched her do interviews on soft talk shows, pretending to be some innocent woman who stood by her man and believed in his vision. She wore white, quoted Breen Brown, said things like, "Healing is messy." Meanwhile, Mason's investors were pulling out. Their stock froze. And someone, not me, but someone smart, sent proof of insider trading to the SEC. I didn't even have to lift a finger after that. But I wasn't done yet. Because revenge isn't justice. Revenge is precision. And I had one final plan. The night I bought my ticket to their annual winter retreat, the one where Reddington's partners and top clients flew to Aspen, I booked a second one. For Jenna. We arrived separately, of course. Jenna and I weren't stupid. She checked in under a different name, blonde wig, sunglasses, straight out of a spy novel. I came in with a scarf over my mouth, low baseball cap. No one recognized us. And even if they did, no one expected me to show up here. That was the beauty of it. The retreat was held at the Reddington Family Lodge, a fortress in the mountains with glass walls and fake humility. Dozens of people mingled, sipping champagne, shaking hands under chandeliers made of elk antlers. Mason stood near the fireplace, giving a speech about transparency, while Amber floated beside him like some ice queen with a practiced smile. I watched from the back, drink untouched in my hand. Jenna leaned over and whispered, "You ready?" I nodded. At 7:45 p.m., just as the group moved into the main dining hall for the gala dinner, the screens around the lodge lit up, projectors, tablets, smart TVs. One by one, they came alive. Not a glitch. Not a corporate promo video. Emails. Screenshots. Bank transfers. Amber's voice, recorded from a call where she said, "If Noah even suspects something, just buy him out. He's too soft to fight." Mason's voice, "We're in too deep already. If the SEC sees this." Then the footage. That same hallway scene. People gasped. A woman dropped her wine glass. Mason froze mid-step. Amber's face melted into something feral. "Noah," she hissed, suddenly scanning the crowd. I stepped forward slowly, no longer hiding. "Evening," I said. Everyone turned. "What the hell is this?" Mason shouted. "This," I said, "is everything you thought no one would ever find." Amber took a step toward me. "You're ruining everything." "No," I replied calmly. "I'm just showing them who you really are." Security started to move, but Jenna was faster. She handed printed copies of the documents to the guests, to the press, to the board members. Mason's father was there too. Old money, sharper than all of them. He took the papers, read 3 lines, and walked out without a word. It took 5 minutes. That's all. 5 minutes to collapse years of empire building. Amber screamed at me in front of everyone. Her eyes wide, voice cracked, mascara running. She called me a loser. Said I was jealous. Pathetic. That no one would ever love a man like me. I didn't respond. I just looked at her. Not with hate. With silence. Because silence speaks louder than revenge. And revenge had already happened. By the time the news hit in the morning, Reddington Capital had issued a statement, pausing operations for internal review. By noon, their lawyers were drowning. And by evening, Amber's accounts were frozen. Mason's travel flagged by federal authorities. Their empire? Crumbling. And me? I was already gone. Out of the lodge. Out of the state. Free. But not finished. I watched it all from a quiet apartment 2 states away, my phone buzzing nonstop with news alerts, headlines, articles that used words like collapse, scandal, fraud. I didn't feel joy. Not exactly. It was something colder. Sharper. Like watching rot finally rise to the surface after years of hiding under polish and silk. Amber called. 17 times. She left messages that ranged from denial to threats to desperate apologies. One of them, at 2:13 a.m., sounded like she was crying. I don't know what you want from me, Noah. You win, okay? You win. Are you happy now? She didn't understand. This wasn't about happiness. This was about truth. A week later, I received a letter. Real paper. Embossed seal. It was from Reddington Sr. himself. A handwritten note. Well played. I underestimated you. They all did. If you're ever in New York, let's have a drink, my treat. You were never the weak one. I burned it without a word. Mason disappeared off the map. Rumors said he flew to Dubai, but the feds froze his accounts before he got there. The last confirmed sighting of him was blurry security footage from a cheap motel near Reno. The man who used to wear $5,000 suits now wore a hoodie and paranoia. Amber? She tried to pivot, claimed to be a victim of Mason's manipulation. Went on a podcast crying about how she lost herself in his world. But screenshots, audio, and money trails don't lie. The sponsors pulled out. Her followers turned. She was no longer a glamorous wife of a CEO. She was a cautionary tale. But even after everything, there was still a hollow part of me. Not regret, not sadness, just a space where she used to live. Her laughter, her perfume, her lies. It lingered like smoke after the fire. I met Jenna again a month later. We didn't talk about revenge. We talked about freedom, about how easy it is to lose yourself when someone wraps poison in love. She told me Mason once said, Noah's harmless. We both laughed at that. Then she looked me in the eye and asked, do you feel like it's over? I thought for a moment. No, I said. It's not over until I forget her name. We sat in silence after that. Some wounds don't bleed. They just echo. But I had one final task. Not destruction. Closure. It came unexpectedly on a Sunday morning. I was walking through a small antique market in Vermont. Quiet, cold, peaceful. I wasn't thinking about Amber or Mason or the empire I'd helped destroy. For once, my mind wasn't looping the past. I was just there, present. And then I saw her. Not Amber. Her mother, Elaine Reddington, wrapped in a beige trench coat, sunglasses on despite the clouds, holding a chipped porcelain angel and haggling like she still mattered. She didn't see me. I stood there, still watching the woman who once told me at our engagement party, you'll never be enough for her. You're a phase she needs to outgrow. The same woman who raised Amber to think love was a transaction and betrayal was strategy. And in that moment, I didn't feel hate. I felt pity. Because I realized something. They didn't destroy me. Not really. They revealed me. They sharpened me. And everything they took, my marriage, my business, my dignity, they did me a favor by stealing it. They freed me from an illusion. I walked away before she noticed me. No confrontation. No words. That was the closure. I didn't need revenge anymore. Not because I had finished it, but because I had outgrown it. 3 months later, I sat down in a quiet cafe with a pen and a blank notebook. No laptop. No agenda. Just me. I started writing, not about them, but about me. My mistakes. My blind spots. My silence. I didn't let myself off the hook. But I also didn't drown in shame. I forgave myself. That was harder than anything else. And now, when people ask me what happened, I tell them this. They thought I was the weak one, until I became the only thing standing in their way. So if you're reading this, or watching this, or hearing this from someone who once knew me, let me leave you with one truth. When someone takes everything from you, don't chase to get it back. Make them watch you rebuild something better. In silence. Without them. Forever. 6 months passed. The headlines faded. The lawsuits piled up for the Reddingtons. Mason's name was no longer followed by tech visionary, but by alleged fraudster. Amber tried rebranding herself as a wellness coach, of all things, selling digital affirmations to the same type of men she used to mock. Ironic. One night, while scrolling through my burner email, the one I used for quiet things, I saw a message from a name I hadn't expected. Subject, you won. Please let me talk. Asterisk asterisk. From Amber. No pleasantries. No manipulation. Just a sentence. Asterisk. I lost everything, Noah. The money. The house. My name. They're freezing me out. Please, I just need someone who knew me before all this. Asterisk. I stared at the message. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened a new tab and bought a one-way ticket to Lisbon. I'd always wanted to see Portugal. Amber hated the idea, said it was too old and not trendy. But I crave quiet now. Real quiet. The kind that doesn't echo her laugh, or Mason's voice, or my own shame. When I arrived, I turned off my phone for 2 days. Just wandered narrow streets, drank coffee that tasted like earth and sunlight, and spoke broken Portuguese to patient strangers. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a man climbing out of wreckage. I felt like a man building again. And on the third morning, sitting at a seaside cafe, I realized something strange. I didn't care anymore. Not in a bitter way. Not in a hollow way. I had nothing left to burn. No more vengeance to feed. The fire had gone out on its own. All that remained were ashes and peace. I left the cafe, walked down to the beach, and tossed the burner phone into the ocean. Amber would never hear from me again. And that was the point. I wasn't hers anymore. I was mine. 2 years later, my name came up in an industry article. Just a footnote. Noah Callahan, the former co-founder of Syntrax Systems, recently launched a private consultancy for ethical digital infrastructure. His quiet return to tech has caught the interest of several major investors. Quiet return. That's exactly what I wanted. No noise, no headlines, no photo ops. Just the work. Clean. Honest. Mine. I ran the company from a glass-walled loft overlooking the river. No assistants. No fake smiles. Just one whiteboard, 2 good chairs, and a coffee machine that never failed me. My first client was a small firm in Montana trying to digitize their grain distribution without selling their soul to data brokers. It felt good to help people again. No ego. No games. One morning, I walked in to find a letter on my desk. Real envelope. No stamp. Someone had dropped it off. Inside was a short note. I see what you're building. You deserve it. Jay. I smiled. Jenna. Of course. We hadn't spoken in over a year, but her shadow was there at every turning point. She never wanted credit. She didn't need thanks. We'd made peace in our own way. 2 people scorched by the same flame who'd walked away before it devoured them. Sometimes survival isn't about winning. It's about knowing when to walk away. One night, I sat alone on my balcony with a glass of wine and watched the lights ripple across the water. The city buzzed below, a different kind of life, one that didn't belong to Amber or Mason or the Reddington name. It belonged to me. And as I leaned back in that old wooden chair, I realized I didn't even remember the last time I'd said her name out loud. That's when I knew. It was finally over. The last time I saw Amber was by accident. I was in New York for a quiet investor meeting. Nothing flashy, just a room with too much glass, too many buzzwords, and one honest handshake. On my way out, I passed through a crowded lobby, phone in one hand, code in the other. Then I heard her voice. Not speaking to me. Selling something. Amber sat behind a cosmetics booth near the entrance. One of those desperate pop-ups tucked between escalators. Her hair was different, darker. Her face thinner. Her smile was still polished. But her eyes didn't shine anymore. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did, and chose to pretend otherwise. I didn't stop. Didn't look back. That was the final piece I didn't know I was waiting for. Not revenge. Not power. Closure. She was no longer the woman who haunted my nights. She was just someone I used to love, who burned everything she touched, including herself. I stepped outside into the cold wind and laughed quietly to myself. Not out of cruelty. Out of freedom. They had tried to reduce me to nothing. A footnote. A cautionary tale. A man whose silence was weakness. But I turned that silence into a weapon. I made them underestimate me. And then I used it to dismantle everything they stood on. Brick by brick, secret by secret, lie by lie. This wasn't a story about heartbreak. It was a story about becoming dangerous the moment they stopped watching. So here's my advice. If you're listening, if you're hurting, if you're standing at the edge of your own ruin, don't scream. Don't beg. Don't let them see you bleed. Just disappear. And come back when no one expects you. Colder, wiser, patient enough to take your world back on your own terms. That's how I brought down the Reddington Empire. Not with fire. With silence. And now? Now I'm finally alive.